Matt Lee got a start, and the Cincinnati Bengals' second string defense held up against Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. Let's break down the takeaways from the Bengals game against the Bears in preseason game number 2.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. I'm your host, Jake Liscow. He's your host, James Rapien. The Bengals have dropped another preseason game. They're not a very good preseason game team under Zach Taylor. We're the Locked On Bengals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere you get your podcasts. Thanks for making us your first listeners. Shout out to all the everydayers out there who make us part of their regular routine every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, who is giving you 3 free weeks of a trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV when you make a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. James, the only potential starters that played in this game for the Cincinnati Bengals were Dax Hill and DJ Turner. They only played a couple of drives each, but were part of the Bengals' second string defensive effort that held Caleb Williams in that starting Bears offense out of the end zone until late in the second quarter.
And yet you lead with Zach Taylor being bad in the preseason. You're calling for Zach Taylor's job. Hot take Jake is in the building. No, I'm just kidding. All right. I can't go farther than that. I almost cut you off earlier because of that and wanted to talk about Zach and his preseason record. No, this didn't really feel like a game, did it?
No.
And yet early on, the second team Bengals defense, which was like this hybrid of second and third guys, really, through part of it, they held up really well. And I think that's the takeaway and the main theme from today. I know you teased Matt Lee and we can discuss it, but this defense that we've questioned, Dax Hill, DJ Turner, that we've questioned, those guys held up their end of the bargain. There was no DJ Moore streaking deep downfield and Caleb Williams finds him. Keenan Allen didn't get free for a 35-yard gain. Like all of those things that were kind of scary sounding in the joint practice a few days ago, they were either cleaned up or adjusted, or the Bears just didn't want to push it, which I don't think is the case because Caleb Williams played the entire first half. They clearly wanted to have some success on offense. And so, yeah, I think when I think of this game from a Bengals perspective, the first thing I'm going to think about is Dax Hill and DJ Turner and how well they played, even if it wasn't a ton of snaps.
Yeah, Zach Taylor said after the game the plan was for them to play 2 drives, but he also said in like the same sentence that the conditions were not great, and there was some concern pregame, some comments from Bears media that their GM Ryan Poles and assistant GM were down on the field looking at things. They've resodded the field within the last 2 weeks, so there may have been some issues with the state of the grass in Chicago. And Zach said because of those conditions, they didn't really want to risk things by leaving Dax and DJ in any longer than that. So that was probably a factor in addition to the idea that Zach said they were only going to play the 2 drives. But you're right. For the first 3 drives of the game, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out for the Bengals number 2s on defense against Caleb Williams and DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. And all these guys are going to be playing significant snaps for the Chicago Bears. And while the national media is going to go crazy over the highlight reel that Caleb Williams put together against the Bengals second and third stringers late in the second quarter, the last drive of the first half.
Third stringers, right? I mean, I don't think were there second stringers in still?
I guess it depends on how you classify some of these guys.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess like Jalen Davis and Josh Newton are still in. Those guys are probably third stringers, but like kind of on that fringe, on that bubble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But depth chart guy, like we're deep into the depth chart.
Yeah.
So much so that Caleb probably wouldn't be facing any of them if the game mattered, just to clarify.
It was definitely like third string defensive linemen that he made look like third string defensive linemen, fourth string defensive linemen when they got into the red zone there. But for the first 2 drives of the game, they go quick game, moving pocket early, do the Bears, and none of that really works out for them. And then you get a nice return, by the way. Jermaine Burton out there returning punts early in this game. The Bengals had a litany of penalties on special teams that need to be cleaned up. And that's something that is a note of in and of itself. But Then you get another 3 and out that includes a 3rd and 5 stop, a nice tackle from Jalen Davis and Akeem Davis-Gaither to keep Garrett or Gerald Everett close or short of the first down marker, and a couple of run stops there to start that drive. And then on the third drive, you got Muma Jong Meta in the game already. So you've already got a list of subs coming in. Jong Meta makes a run stop on that second down to set up a 3rd and 2 that leads to Josh Newton absolutely clamping DJ Moore on a slant and press man, and just with a beautiful rep, beautiful pass breakup, his best play of the day. And then the subs get in to a greater degree. You get the DPI on Josh Newton grabbing Tyler Scott deep downfield that sets up the field goal after a Chris Jenkins sack, by the way, on a really nice spin move that was reminiscent of a move we saw him put on Alex Kappa in camp that I noted at one point in a tweet. And then the 3rd and 4th stringers get in and it goes off the rails a little bit. But when I reflected on the first half, I felt generally pretty positive about things for the defense. It wasn't perfect, obviously. They gave up 10 points late in the half, but the start they had was very, very strong before they started subbing guys out.
Yeah, the guys that are going to make the team and play week 1 played well, right? Or weren't suited up. And that's where I'm judging this, because a lot of the second half guys, and I know it still mattered. I tweeted about the running clock. I'm sure a lot of people did and thought it. They're not making the team. They're hoping to make the practice squad. Like Mumajong Meta getting in that early, drive 3, he's hoping to be the 3rd string linebacker. Like hoping. Just so, and he played well, by the way, led the team in tackles. That's not me being disrespectful to him, but it just shows you how the Bengals were treating this and yet still having success. I also think the Josh Newton highs and lows, it's good because I think a lot of people have seen the highs from camp. We've talked about the lows, but you don't necessarily see them. Well, now you see them. I was asked after he made that play on DJ Moore, like, hey, could he make a push for CB2? And I like the starting cornerback opposite Cam Taylor-Britt. And I said, no, no, he's not going to do that. And I think that there are people that have brought that up as a discussion. And I don't really think that's a discussion. And what we saw after that, the penalty, and then getting beat by Pettis in the 3rd quarter for the touchdown where he just didn't move, and whether that was just mental, I assume it was a mental thing more than it was a physical thing. But yeah, I think you see the highs and lows of a rookie that's going to learn from it. And that's what I like about Josh Newton. He'll give up a play and then he'll rebound, or he'll make a play and then it's next play, he's thinking about the next one. So it's you saw the highs and lows, I think, that Josh Newton's kind of working through right now.
Yeah, it's hard to hold against him too much, the deep ball to Roma Dunze on the sideline where Caleb Williams escapes a pocket. It's a great throw. It is a highlight throw. That throw deserves accolades. It doesn't necessarily deserve he's the next Patrick Mahomes kind of hype, but that is a throw that Patrick Mahomes can also make. And so that's where those comparisons are coming from. It was a great throw. And it's a very long developing play. Newton's in good position there, but you do potentially see some of his limitation there, deep downfield, trying to find the ball in the air on a vertical ball where he's behind the receiver, out of phase. That also leads to the DPI penalty where maybe it's a little ticky-tack, and I saw some discussion about that not being pass interference, but that gets called a fair amount of the time when you put your hand on the shoulder and you see the receiver's path alter the way Tyler Scott's did. Those plays are 2 of them, and then there's the one you talk about, the touchdown he gave up to Dante Pettis later. It did look like potentially a miscommunication. He maybe was peeking at the outside receiver. There was some conversation. You could see him trying to communicate just before the snap. So it's potentially a miscommunication there. Hard to say what exactly happened there, but it was a mixed bag for him. And like you said, I think that shows why he has, one, outperformed his draft status, I think, as a day 3 corner. There's something there. There's something that could be a solid player for them in Josh Newton, and you take that for a day 3 corner. But I agree with you. He's not pushing to start right now over the 2 other guys that have played well throughout this preseason, up and down as well, but mostly played pretty well throughout this preseason in Dax Hill and DJ Turner.
Yeah, those guys, again, big winners today. Dax Hill and DJ Turner, what they did, the battle goes on. And one of my pre-camp predictions, they don't all come true, but the fact that Dax versus DJ would go into the final week, well, it's into the final week. Tuesday's joint practice against the Colts is going to be huge. We'll continue to react to this game. Bengals, Bears, Jake talked about Matt Lee. He's been dying to talk about Matt Lee. We will talk about Matt Lee coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all of the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive today at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers.
Matt Lee got the start at center. That is what we were hoping for anyone who watched our most recent video, for anyone who follows at Locked On Bengals on Twitter. You saw the clip. I was very excited for this. He got to play the entire game at center.
Yeah,
Trey Hill started at right guard, Jackson Kirkland starting at left tackle, Cody Ford at right tackle, and Nate Gilliam at left guard. So a bit of a different look for the Bengals here. And this is, of course, with Amarius Mims injured, with Trent Brown injured. So they're thin at tackle. They're trying some new guys to tackle. And as a result, I think potentially shuffling some guys inside. Maybe if Amarius Mims is healthy, it's a different configuration. Maybe Jackson Kirkland isn't playing tackle, or maybe Nate Gilliam doesn't get the start. They would probably have guys in slightly different positions along that line. But the configuration they go with sees Matt Lee play the entire game. And it wasn't perfect for Matt Lee, but I think he's the second best center on the team. And I think that he should certainly be on the roster. And beyond that, there's some other takeaways for the rest of this offensive line group that we will get to. But of course, we're starting with Matt Lee because I thought he was pretty good. I thought he held up. I thought he showed his ability to move in space. I thought he showed his ability to overcome his size limitations with technique a couple of times in the pass game. He got moved a little bit in the run game at times. That's going to happen for him. I think that's his limitation. But for a 7th round center, sign me up. Very excited.
Yep. Everything you were hoping to see, he showed. And it was never going to be perfect. They know that. But you wanted him, and by the way, in the elements, which is a huge factor. And we don't know how he did in the joint practice, but now you're talking about multiple days in the elements for a center, for a guy who's considered undersized. That's why he fell in the draft. And you could say undersized, whatever. Held up well, went up against first teamers, did his job. The offense moved the ball some. And the reason why I don't think he's a reason why they couldn't push the ball downfield, because this offense was awful today. Let's be honest. That's what it was. And there's reasons for it, but Matt Lee wasn't one of them. And that's what you're looking for, is a quality backup center, someone that you can continue to build and groom. And he fell to the 7th round because of his size, but he's a perfect fit in this offense. You mentioned the run game. They don't run the ball. Even with Logan Woodside at quarterback, it's not like they were running the ball 30 times today, because that's not them. This is not a running team, Jake. And so it's like, oh, well, this center's just a really good pass blocker. Well, yeah. Hell yeah. That's great. That's great. It's the Bengals offense. That's what they're going to do. I mean, Logan Woodside threw the ball 20 times in the first half. 20. So, and I'm not complaining about it, but that's just what they are. And so I think he is exactly what you needed at center, period. Max Sharping was their backup center last year. And so with him no longer in town, Trey Hill had a chance, and Trey Hill let Matt Lee in. I mean, 2 weeks ago, Matt Lee wasn't even getting in on team drills. We talked about it. And now, and we said it going in, I was like, man, if he plays well today, he's probably the backup center. I don't really see a scenario where you could argue otherwise. And it's because he showed he's capable. He didn't have a ton of bad snaps. There was a late almost penalty that actually didn't get called, but could have been on him, something he has to learn from. Okay, fine. You're working with a quarterback that has no chance of making the practice squad, at least no realistic chance, with Rocky Lombardi, the best name in football. So I think Matt Lee, his stock continues to rise, and wouldn't shock me if, or would shock me if he's anything but the backup center.
The other side of that coin is Trey Hill, who had 3 penalties.
Mhm.
So,
And that's part of it too. Honestly, I mean, what do you want? Trey Hill 3 penalties? Like he hurt his case, I would say, to make the team.
he looks better at guard in his defense. I would say that. This has kind of always been the case for him, looking a little bit more
He
suited to
looks like
play
a guard. He just physically looks like a guard in general. He doesn't look like a center.
But the penalties have been an issue for him throughout his NFL career as well, and have been one of the reasons he couldn't get on the field throughout his NFL career as well. You talked about the offense being pretty bad. We'll come back to Jackson Kirkland as well, and Jackson Carman not getting into the game until there were about 10 minutes left and only really playing for a couple of drives at the end of the game. Very short-lived experience for Jackson Carman today. Zach Taylor in his press conference mentioned people were talking about the pressures the Bears were sending in this game. And Zach's like, no, they weren't really sending a bunch of different stuff. They sent the same nickel pressure 4 times in a row on second down, and we didn't pick it up once. So there's that. I mean, Logan Woodside, I thought, had a pretty good first quarter. After the first quarter, I did a tweet like my first quarter overreaction stock report. Logan Woodside, yeah, pretty good start. And then his fatal flaw showed up. He's a space cadet. He's oblivious to nickel pressure. He got hit by, one interception, 1 sack, got absolutely blown up both times. Taylor said they didn't pick it up 4 times in a row. Was pretty frustrated with that. And it sounds like it was a protection call issue. Hard to tell whether it was a tackle, offensive line, tight end kind of issue, or if it was a protection call issue. But just wanted to point that out. Zach Taylor, not often getting into details, but gives us a little glimpse behind the curtain there, saying, yeah, it was the same pressure 4 times and we didn't pick it up once, and it was really frustrating. And that was an interesting comment from Zach after the game.
Yeah. And that's where days like today can be so beneficial. Let's say it's on Kirkland. Well, Kirkland got his first reps at tackle this week.
And it was on the right side, not the left side where Kirkland was playing at least twice.
Yeah. Just in general, though, like the benefit, or Ford for that matter, right? The benefit of getting these guys out there is you hope you don't see them at tackle. The Bengals, if they keep Jackson Kirkland and Cody Ford, they're not hoping to play either one at offensive tackle at any point this year. But you want to know that they can do it. And you want to know that they know the protections and that they know, and I don't know if it's them, but that's the benefit of playing them today. Ford didn't play the entire game. Kirkland didn't play the entire game, I don't believe.
Kirkland might have kicked into guard, but I can't remember.
Yeah. Either way, though, I think Ford locked to make the roster. He would be your 7th. Lee feels like a lock now. And Kirkland, to me, clearly ahead of Jackson Carman, who would be in our losers bucket. I mean, the fact that he got in, I saw him at first in the 4th quarter. I assume it was 4th quarter only. Left tackle.
About 10 minutes left in the game.
When you're entering with Rocky Lombardi,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not trying to throw strays at Rocky, it feels like it. He's catching a lot of them right now. But that's rough for Jackson Carman, a former 2nd-round pick. And we expected that. We thought he was buried on the depth chart, and he is. I just think Kirkland looked good enough, serviceable enough at tackle, especially because he just got put there less than a week ago. I mean, there wasn't discussion of him playing tackle a week ago, and Jackson Carman struggles against the Buccaneers, and then they come back for practice on Monday, and we see Kirkland at tackle, and we see Ford at tackle because they want to see what Kirkland and Ford can do. And so far, so good, especially after losing Deontay Smith.
They want to see essentially anybody besides Jackson Carman take that job.
Holding.
And if I had to guess, the 9th guy to me is probably Kirkland right now, especially if they think he can play some tackle. I think you alluded to this as well. Can certainly play guard. That's where he's been playing for the Bengals. And he was okay today, I think. On first watch, he seemed okay today. Cody Ford was up and down. He was Cody Ford. But, you kind of underlined this point. Not only are the Bengals playing a string behind on defense, like throughout the game, a string behind on offense throughout the game, the Bears playing some starters on defense as well. They're also playing guys at tackle that just aren't tackles. Cody Ford is your tackle in a pinch. Jackson Kirkland, another tackle in a pinch. And beyond that, they got undrafted guys who maybe got in toward the end of the game. So they have guys playing out of position. They have guys playing to try to show they have some positional versatility. And I thought Kirkland was okay today. I thought that he did enough that I would consider him the 3rd guy right now when the competition is like Jackson Carman and Trey Hill, who have penalty issues. The only
Yeah.
only other one competing would be Nate Gilliam to me.
Yeah.
Are you really trusting Nate Gilliam to be that guy right now? I think he's probably practice squad guy.
What really sucks is the Deontay Smith element
Yeah.
here. I mean, I think he would have had a real shot to make the team, and now he's out for the year. Chris Evans out for the year. We haven't covered those, but we knew they were injured, and really bad news for both guys. But we have a few more things to get to. We have a punter battle to discuss. Did Ryan Rico deliver? We'll do that, plus any last notes we have coming up next. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel because it's America's number one, not number 2 or 3, number 1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Right now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Did you hear me? Jake, did you hear that? Again, all you have to do is go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. And now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get not 1, not 2, but 3 weeks of a free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Lock into your free trial today of Sunday Ticket by going to FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's number 1 sports book, and you wager that $5 and boom, you'll get it. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon.
James, let's talk punters, and we'll get to
Punters.
the rest of our takeaways as well. Of course, Brad Robbins did not punt today. So when I say punter, I mean punter, not punters. Ryan Rico getting all of the work today. He didn't get all of the kicks that he should have gotten because the Bengals had some turnovers on offense. A Rocky Lombardi lost fumble, a couple of interceptions from Logan Woodside. So we could have seen some more punts from Rico. He did not run away with that punter job today. He had an opportunity to do so. He had an opportunity to punt for this entire game. He had a successful hold in the operation of a 50-plus yard field goal for Evan McPherson, but his punting was inconsistent. His best punt, well, he had 2 good ones, I would say. One, he's backed up on his own end zone, like feet backed up to the safety line. He hits a 50-yarder, leads to a negative return, and that's what you need from a guy in that spot. The other good punt, he pins the Bears inside the 10 on a nice high controlled kick, kicking from the 45. The other ones, low line drive issues, directional issues. His longest punt of the day, I think, benefited from a 15-plus yard bounce, and that was a short punt as well. So I didn't see from him the kind of power leg consistently that you would hope to see from him. And then on top of that, the directional issues and the inconsistency, that battle will continue depending on Brad Robbins' health.
Yeah, I think this is the one battle. Well, corner too, but like offensive line wise, like there was clear separation right away. Trey Hill holding, Trey Hill, illegal man downfield, or not holding, false start, illegal man downfield, and Matt Lee's doing his job. With this one, it was like, yeah, Rico's been okay. Like the first punt wasn't great, I think 42, and then the next punt looks great at 56, but it bounced from your place in Vancouver Island, Canada, all the way to me in Cincinnati. It was a freaking bounce forever. And so it looks much better on the stat sheet than Darren Simmons or the coaching staff is going to feel. And overall, the numbers are fine. 46.2 yards, had the one inside the 20. But to me, the one thing and the big thing, and I've harped on this because I know Brad Robbins is really, really good at it. He was the holder on the 54-yarder for Evan McPherson. And so I think he helped this case today. Ryan Rico did, but I don't think he separated himself. I still, if Robbins is healthy, I think he can do everything Ryan Rico did today. And so that's what Rico has to overcome still. And he's got some time to do it, right? You have 5 days now, a 5-day stretch with a joint practice, a practice Monday, then a joint practice, and then obviously the preseason finale on Thursday night. So it's going to be quick. He's got some time to do it. I think today was a step in the right direction, but it wasn't a 56-yard punt average, 2 inside the 20, 1 70-yarder from the back of his end zone. Like he didn't dazzle. And I think that it's kind of a missed opportunity because I do know that he has that kind of leg and it didn't show. And if you're not going to show that, then it's going to be an uphill climb, because I think Robbins does the directional stuff. I think his leg is stronger this year than it was last year, and we know what he is as a holder. Obviously, the health part is the big question mark.
Yeah, the one that I liked the most was one where he's backed up on the safety line, or whatever that line is called, like the back of his own end zone. That was a pretty good kick for him, and that's something that,
and the coverage was awesome. Yeah,
and that's something that Bengals fans are probably relieved to see a guy have that ability. That was an issue where, like, deep in their own territory, that's where Brad Robbins last year was not great. But unfortunate injury for Robbins. Would have been good to see him in that situation today. Would have been good to see those guys rotating again. But the amount of less than 50-yard punts, like 40, hitting the ground around 40 yards downfield, besides the one that pins the Bears deep in their own territory, left something to be desired for Rico today. And so he would need to be more consistent moving forward. Need to find a little bit more control and more power consistently, if that's going to be his calling card to separate himself from Robbins. We'll see what's happening with Robbins' injury this week. Pretty quick turnaround, like you said. Not sure if we will see Robbins in this next week or so. So we'll see how that develops as that,
I hope we do,
battle continues. Yeah, it'd be better if we do. It'd be better to have that continued information.
I don't want either one to win by default.
No.
And I think Brad was ahead when he got injured, but now it's kind of weird. Like, Ryan was fine today, right? Like, he's fine. But to your point, like, there were multiple where it's like, ugh.
There were a couple concerning ones. Yeah.
The second one was rough. The bouncer, his longest of the day, was a really rough one.
That one in the low line drive in the middle of the field that was returned like 15 yards or whatever it was. He had one that was returned for a solid clip, and the coverage had no chance, and it's in the middle of the field. And that gives you the flashbacks to the AFC Championship game. Other standouts, Chris Jenkins mentioned that sack earlier. Chris Jenkins showing up in a positive way today. Nice to see him flashing in the right direction. Matt Lee, we discussed. Dejon Anthony continues to work early. Any other notes from you on individuals? I mean, it's hard for these guys to show out in a strong way, because even if they're playing,
it was a weird game. Yeah,
you're surrounded by guys that are a string behind. Mubajong Meta, you mentioned him earlier, continues to show in the run game. Joe Bachie,
he's the one.
Apparently had an injury on a punt coverage play. Don't know what's going on with him. Don't know why Jermaine Burton didn't play very much. I guess those are a couple of things. Why didn't Jermaine Burton play more? But Mubajong Meta, I think, despite his limitations in terms of movement ability, and that might show up a little bit in the coverage game, nice downhill run defending kind of linebacking player. And he has a pretty good chance to make the team.
Yeah, he keeps playing well, and he's just around the ball. Made a special teams tackle, which is big, because that's what he'll be doing if he does make the team. Yeah, I think Mubajong Meta, get used to him, because I think you're going to be hearing about 45. It's certainly trending that way. Chris Jenkins also had a tackle for loss, so really nice to see him get a little bit, because I think you can only build confidence and push forward. Other than that, no, I think it was a weird game. It's a unique game. You don't really look at the score in this type of game. I think let's end where we started. Dax Hill, DJ Turner. It was the battle of camp coming into camp, and both guys played darn well. And the best case scenario is that both are ready to start, and only one can, and they can both contribute. And who is it? I'm not sure, but that would be ideal for the Bengals secondary, no doubt.
We'll get another joint practice, this time in Cincinnati. We'll get another preseason game, although we'll see who is planning to play in that preseason game on a short week. That game on Thursday, is that right? I'm just not going to know the preseason schedule.
Thursday.
Great.
Thursday at 8, Paycor Stadium.
We still need to find out why Jermaine Burton didn't get to play a whole lot in this game. That question lingers. We do not have that answer right now. Potentially may have suffered some sort of minor tweak of some sort, but don't know.
We'll see. Yeah, we don't want to. Hopefully not. He still had his pads on late in the game, because I posted video of Burrow in the rain, which I'm sure the ladies are going to love. The other part of it, one other thing I want to mention: Charlie Jones went through warmups and then didn't play, but I love it. I love that he was back. I love that he looks like he's capable of playing, and I also love that they held him out. I was like, man, is he really going to play? Like, this dude was carted off the field 9 days ago. Like, let's just not do it. There's no reason. He's your punt returner. So it was kind of cool to see Jermaine back there. Hopefully Jermaine's fine as well. And we'll have those updates and much, much more on our next show Monday.
Looked comfortable as a returner, did Burton. And if he needs to find a way to be active on game days because maybe he's still behind as a wide receiver for now, that would be a good way for him to make sure that he's active on game days. Agree on Charlie Jones, by the way. If the field was suspect, that could be why you saw some precautionary moves like that one, potentially, if that is indeed what that decision came down to. But you're right. We'll have some more updates for you all on Monday. No episode coming on Sunday night. This will have to get you through until the next time the Bengals reconvene, and we hopefully can gain a little bit more information at that point in time. If you need a second listen, you can always check out Locked On Fantasy Football or the 24/7 Locked On NFL YouTube page. Until next time, thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Hoo day.